Hi, guys.
Well, hello and welcome to the Talkies.
Welcome to the Talkies.
Woo! This is it. This is the Talkies. Another day of shooting a show on Zoom.
Yep, still a thing.
It's because the COVID and stuff.
Where
What's
are you,
that?
though? You don't look like you're at home, Kenny.
This is my house.
Oh.
My wife kicked me out, so I live in the office, and so it's technically my home.
Oh.
All right.
Is that a? Do I congratulate you for that, or what? What do you want?
Congratulations, Kenny. Congratulations.
What should I say to that?
You should tell me what you think about the Florida Project.
Oh, I would love to do that.
That's why we're here. We're not here to talk about my ruined life.
Talking about other people's ruined lives.
Your wife's going to be very confused when she watches this.
My wife doesn't watch this show.
She watches every episode.
Really?
I don't even watch this show, dude.
Maybe that's why she threw me out. Anyway, so this week we watched the Florida Project from what's his name?
What's his name? Yeah.
Bob Fran.
Shawn. His name was Shawn Baker.
Shawn Baker.
Shawn Baker. That's it. Yep.
First movie of his I've seen. Never saw Tangerine.
Yeah, Tangerine's on my list. But yeah, first one of his that I've seen also.
Yeah, well, I've seen Tangerine, and it's cool for what it is. But this movie is very, very different and very similar at the same time.
Did either of you see the trailer for this movie?
No.
Yeah, because I remember when it was coming out, I remember seeing it around.
Well, I might have seen a trailer long ago.
Yeah,
I
don't remember much of it.
I didn't watch the trailer until after I saw the movie, and I hate the trailer.
Really? Is it bad?
It's very, very cheesy and heartfelt.
Honestly, it would be very hard, I think, to make an honest trailer for this movie.
Yeah, it really would be.
When I was watching it, this is my second time watching it, and when I was watching it, I kept coming back to these questions of how do I categorize or define this movie?
Yeah.
Like, it is really hard to pin down what this movie is about. And then I stopped trying to do that, and I just went, oh, I need to wear my climax hat. This is an experience. This is an experiential film more than anything else.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I completely loved it.
I absolutely loved it also.
Yeah.
It almost made me cry a couple times.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't directly identify with virtually anyone in this movie in terms of life experience, and yet I identified with everyone in this movie.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
I love that about movies, that they don't necessarily need to be relatable in the aspect that of your life. It doesn't have to be similar to you. They just have to be human, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's like enough universals out there that if you tap into those, it builds that bridge.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been a kid getting into the kinds of just wrong level of trouble for young kids to be getting into like they were. But I got into enough kinds of trouble that I completely felt what they felt, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt pretty much the same way.
What did you think about the movie, Kenny?
Boy, it's so cool to tell a story without really telling a story.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
That's really interesting, because when I started watching this movie, I was thinking, oh man, is this just going to be an experiential movie? Like, am I just going to have to relinquish my thoughts of what a story was going to be? And then that was my thought about 15 minutes in. But about 10 minutes in, just before that, I was like, this is genius. This is super like visually driven, to where the story is not told to you. It's just kind of felt. And I thought it was amazing up until 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I'm like, it's starting not to get anywhere. I feel like it's just an experience. And then it has an arc. And then the arc goes up, and then it climaxes, and then friendships are torn apart, and then the then she gets thrown out, and the kids are all going through their arcs, and I'm just like, holy crap, this is actually a really interesting story. So that's interesting that neither of you guys really felt like it had one, because I did feel like it did.
I felt like it had micro stories, like many small arcs.
I felt more like it was exploring exploring a space, exploring a living situation. And like, I'm not going to say it didn't have any story, but it definitely didn't have like a traditional story.
Not a traditional one, no.
Yeah. But like I thought it would be something more like, I don't know. It towed this line pretty perfectly of, I think, being like one scene doesn't really have to connect to another, but it definitely does character-wise. Like each scene does add to each of the characters involved, and you learn a little bit more about their situation just through how the decisions they make, pretty much.
Yeah, I felt like the point of the experience was to taste this type of life that is out there and happening in the shadow of Disney World, of all places.
Yeah.
More than it was to say a thing happened to a person that you need to know about.
That's interesting. Yeah, sure. See, I felt both of those, though. I felt more...
Who was the person then?
The girl.
Which girl? The daughter? The little girl?
No.
Or her mom?
The mom.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's who I felt like the camera focused on the most. I mean, there was a lot of sidestepping there. They had a lot of screen time for the kids, and then even some dedicated solely to the owner. But I felt like those were B stories more to I can't remember the girl's name, the mom's story. I really liked how it was a taste of life in this Florida trash kind of style, and then we got to see so many details of her story, or of her life. We got to see so many details of her life that I felt like all these decisions that she's making throughout the story are going to climax at some time, and they did. She eventually got screwed over many times by both the owner, by the people who came over to take away her kid, and I felt like the people who came over to take away the kid was really the thing that it was building up to, and I felt like that was pretty amazing payoff, because she was such a shitty mom.
Yeah, I liked the build up. I did feel like it was building up to something, and it did, as you said too. And I liked the what was it? I had something to say.
I felt like it centered. I felt like it was more telling us the story of the little girl, of the daughter, more than the mom. Especially since through that climax, we more follow her response to it than the mom's response to it, to the extent that we end up going into her head with the ending.
Taylor, how did you interpret the ending?
I thought the ending was literally like a basically fantastical escape from the absolutely shitty reality that these children were living in.
Yeah.
When their reality reached peak tragicness or just horribleness and drama is when we check out and just run off to Disney World.
Yeah.
It's like a really, really sad, I don't know. I don't even want to call it happy. It's just sad.
Yeah.
It's like this whole movie is like almost has sad, the guise of being kind of happy. Like there's a couple moments that are like a little feel good, but it's just all in such a sad environment.
Yeah.
So I couldn't help but feel like at the end I was like rooting and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But then when it's all over, I'm like, well, that's really sad because that's them fantasizing and trying to escape the reality.
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly, there's no reality where they could have just ran into Disney World.
If you think about it very logically like that, yeah, absolutely. It had to have been in her head because there's no reality that could happen. When it was happening, though, as it was happening, I was just taking it in like, oh, she's literally running over to Disney World with her friend. Like they're going, like, I felt like almost it was an advertisement for Disneyland at that moment, where I'm just like, wow, Disneyland just is the answer to all your problems, right?
It is.
And I felt that way during that part of the movie, and then when it ended, I think that's when it clicked where I'm just like, oh, I guess they couldn't have possibly
you're
gone
like,
there.
wait, that didn't actually happen, did it?
Right.
Oh, no,
but it didn't.
Even worse.
It didn't soil the experience for me, and I felt really good about it because, like you guys said, it did have that climax at the end there, to where things could not get any worse.
They switched to iPhone footage at the end there, and of course it's pretty well documented that they did that out of necessity,
right?
So they could go shoot in the park. But to me, it did something very functional in that there was this abrupt aesthetic shift that to me signaled that, oh, we're not watching real life anymore.
That's what I feel like. I've read some articles on it, and most people tend to interpret it that way, where they say, well, now the aesthetic has changed, therefore the mindset has changed, or the perspective has changed.
Yeah.
Especially with the iPhone footage, I felt, because like in my personal context of seeing iPhone footage, it's all linked to like family stuff, nostalgia, and like, you know, family photos and family videos is what like iPhone footage is. And so when I see that kind of footage in this context, especially at the end, switching from 35 millimeter film to this choppy iPhone digital look, running through Disneyland with kids, it's like the ultimate like escape from reality, fantasy, nostalgic kind of thing that I felt. I thought that was a really interesting idea to use iPhone footage for, you know, using iPhone footage as like an artistic.
It's interesting that you interpret iPhone footage as like nostalgia.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Because because to me it's opposite. And iPhone represents the future to me, whereas 35 millimeter represents the past.
Well, right? I think what Taylor's trying to say is that we are every day using our iPhones to record our memories.
Yeah.
No one's using 35 millimeter to record our memories. So literally, if you look back at your memories of last month, it's going to be iPhone footage.
Well, if anything, that feels like it should be more realistic then, right? Like it feels like if you're using iPhone footage, now we've jumped into realism as opposed to hyperrealism.
Well, when I think of like, it's an image of realism, you know. It's like iPhone footage is documenting real things, but there's a process that goes on with iPhone. You edit the iPhone, you edit the footage, you put filters on it, you make it more fantastical than reality actually is. So that's kind of how I was feeling. Oh, and holy moly, the performances, these kids at the end when she was just crying, I was like gonna cry too. I was like,
without question,
that was
the
crazy.
Best child performances I have ever seen.
I don't even get it. Yeah. There was sometimes when I could feel what they were directing the kids to do. Like I felt like I don't know how they did it, but I do know there was some kind of improv going on with the kids, right?
Yeah.
To where they kind of merged that into the story. And some of those parts I felt stilted. I felt like, oh, I see that she's making up something that's not in the script, but they're using it anyway. And I kept feeling that, and it's got to be the filmmaker in me that I hate having those glasses on, but that's what I feel every now and then.
Yeah. That's Talkies for you.
But I absolutely love their performance. I mean, it was insane.
It was so real. It was insanely real. There were times
disturbingly real.
It was just blowing. I genuinely started to think, I'm like, what level of manipulation did they do to these kids? That's what it felt like to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, they had to have like.
Even the stilted parts, right?
Even the parts documented. It felt like documented, not directed.
Right. Yeah, even the parts that I was taken out, I'm still like, how did they even get to that point, right?
Yeah.
How did you get them to make up a line that was that close to what you wanted in the script? Like that's insane.
And like the moment right before it switches to iPhone, when she's just at her friend's door, just sobbing, and she can't even explain why, and her friend is just concerned, and her friend like starts doing this like heavy like breathing thing. She's not in like tears or anything, but it's like a really specific, like sophisticated emotion that this child
That's what I mean.
actress is.
I don't feel like a director could have told someone to do that.
Yeah, he had to like slap her
or explain why that was.
That's what I mean. I don't believe an adult has that in their mind. Could be like, this is how you're going to react. I'm like, no way.
Right.
I feel like they traumatized that kid.
I honestly felt that way. I mean, I feel like at the end, the very end, where you're talking about Taylor, where she's crying, that was actually one of the stilted parts, because to me, it felt like they went from they had like this kind of, like you said, there's a sophisticated emotion going on, but I felt like that emotion was a little a high concept for the girl that age, because although kids of that age, you tear them away from their families, obviously they're going to sob, but the edit just before she started crying, didn't look like she was anywhere near that extreme of an emotion to me. It looked like she was like there, and then they had to edit it into something that was really, really good.
That's possible.
Yeah, and I didn't like seeing that, like I said, but I did love that they got to that point. But yeah.
Can we talk about the Defoe in the room?
Oh yeah.
That was weird to me. I loved him in this movie. It was weird. It was weird because I've never seen Defoe as that kind of character before, where he's super.
Well, it just goes to show he can be anyone.
Yeah,
he's a true character actor.
Yeah.
You know, and for someone with such a distinct look.
Yeah, he looked pretty normal.
Characters like that usually get pegged with like very specific characters,
right?
But Defoe can be anyone.
Anyone, dude.
And if there's any character that I could most relate to, I was like, oh my gosh, I get this guy. Like the weight he's carrying every day.
Yeah. Well, he seemed like the only being there that was competent.
For about a third of the movie, I thought this was going to be his film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of the time where it felt like this was his story.
Yeah.
Then I think it shifted to the mom, and then I think it shifted to the daughter.
I think it shifted many times. Yeah.
I did love Defoe's role though, just as the manager. Like I've always kind of felt like I always felt for him, because he always, I think out of most people in the movie, he seemed to be looking out for people.
He cared.
Yeah, he seemed to care.
Yeah.
Even though he had, and I like that they still like made him face moral dilemmas and having him not be able to like answer them, like as a person.
The scene of him with the pedophile, was awesome.
That was
great.
Yeah. I love and that's what I mean about this kind of storytelling, where it seems like it feels so natural. This whole movie feels so natural, and at the same time, it feels like they're telling a story. Like the scene with the pedophile guy, they're showing that Defoe is so caring about the kids here that he goes out of his way to protect them, and not just out of his way, but enough to where he walked with the guy back to here and tried to get into his head about getting the soda and all that. Like there's a whole complex set of steps that are happening, and I'm just like, it feels so natural. This whole movie almost feels like a documentary, and yet it's saying such a specific message, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, it is really impressive.
Another thing I thought of recently is that there's nothing in this movie that you see and then say, I can't believe that happened in this world.
Yeah.
Where literally it's the opposite. Everything you see, you go, I know that's happening every day in this world.
Yeah.
Dude, did you
and that made it like heavier.
Better. Yeah. Way heavier. Yeah. Did you hear that there's the three kids and the boy, how they found him?
He lived in one of those places.
He lived in a motel like that, and they found him while they were like location scouting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. he lived in
Wow.
a situation like that for real.
And
Which
apparently was elevated out of it by money he made
Because
from
of the
being in the
movie.
movie.
one? Which
Yeah.
one? The Scooty?
The little-
Is that what it's
little
called?
boy, yeah.
Scooby,
Scooby Snacks.
whatever his name was. He went with the funny name.
Moody.
Yeah.
Mooney, yeah.
Moody's
He
the
got,
girl. Scooty's the guy. I think
He got like a
Scooby.
college. They paid for his college too.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
it is awesome.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this movie is not only artistically good, but it's also doing good for the world.
Yeah, yeah. Good on Shawn Baker.
Yeah, I'd love to see the script of this movie to see what
Seriously,
exactly they had
how it
planned.
works.
I don't know how on earth you write this movie
No.
at
Just
all.
more of a outline, more of a guideline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You said Taylor. I don't know if you want to talk about it about Cameron.
Oh, no, I probably shouldn't.
Okay.
Note to editor, remove that.
Yeah.
The one part that I completely identified it with in this film was when the tourist with his foreigner new wife showed up at the hotel thinking they were going to Disney World.
It's so funny that that's the one that you identify with. That says so much about your lifestyle.
I know. Hey, I got my. I'm a privileged person. I know. I own it.
I'd like to think that you're a lot more reasonable than those people.
Well, here's what I meant by that. And there has been 2 instances where I was traveling for a project, usually for a movie, and I go on hotels.com and I look for the best deal because I don't have my family with me, so I don't care if it's ghetto, right? But there were 2 instances where I wished I had spent more money on a hotel because you get there and on the marquee, it doesn't say free HBO or free breakfast. It says the monthly residential rate.
Right.
Mm.
That is a red flag. You don't want to stay at that hotel when that's what's on the marquee. And I walked around this hotel because I couldn't stay in the room because it was super hot and the AC didn't work. So I'm walking around the hotel and I'm looking. Everyone has their doors open because it's hot. And every hotel room has like their own furniture and all kinds of stuff inside. Like these are people who are living there permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that night there were fights outside of my window going on. Like it was just, it was a strange kind of chaos that I just never wanted to be near again.
Yeah.
And that is a brand of American poverty that exists all over the place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've never been in a motel situation myself, but I have been at that level of I don't want to call it poverty, but I guess that's what it is. But I've been at that level of surfing, right, where I just we don't have a house and we're just living here and then living there and living there. And I can definitely relate with the kids at that moment where you're making friends with the other kids who are in the same situation, you know, and they're just walking from grocery store to grocery store as if it's like a theme park, you know, and like finding like little pieces of change and trading it for ice cream. Like I love all of that stuff, and it felt so real to me.
I thought there were some pretty cool uses of visual effects in this movie. Obviously nothing crazy flashy, but like stuff like the fireworks going off.
That meteor and the alien spaceship. That was a little unexpected, but
and the seeing the smoke from the burning when they burn down the building. Yeah.
Yo, the smoke looked super real. I thought that was real.
That's what I love, that kind of use of visual effects where it's just like really simple. It's like low budget use.
I wouldn't have been surprised if they went and started a fire with the smoke, just because reading about this guy's sort of style, like I really identify with Shawn Baker and the way he gets things done.
Yeah, just makes it happen.
For example, all those cutaways to the nearby helicopters taking off and landing was because they couldn't afford to shut down the helicopter company next door.
Okay.
That was part of their plan. Part of their plan was to pay the fees to have this company shut down while they filmed the movie.
Yeah.
But they couldn't afford to do it, so they had to work it into the movie.
That informs me a little bit more about the script, and it's kind of what I imagined was happening anyway. I feel like Shawn Baker is doing so much improv that it feels like the script is probably just a set of topics, and then if there's a story that comes out, great. But that's not really the point. And so one of those things specifically was the helicopters. I was like, they cut away so much to these helicopters, and the sound cues are happening at dramatic times. I wonder if there's going to be a point to it later on, and if there's not, that informs what kind of filmmaker he is. So
if this was a Disney movie or something very predictable, then all of that would have been like foreshadowing or setting up for when a helicopter crashes into an apartment.
And that's what would have capped it off for me. I would have been like, this person's brilliant at that moment if it had a helicopter, actually played a part into the plot. But I was like, hey, he's probably not that design, heavy.
Another improvisation was that the script called for a moment where they showed a rainbow in the distance. And it was already a line item for their effects artists to create, but a rainbow happened to actually show up. It wasn't in the place where they originally wanted it, but they're like, hey, let's shoot that rainbow and it'll save us $50,000.
That's awesome. Well, it looked great. Like I totally forgot about that. Like this whole movie, the entire movie it's like a documentary, dude. It feels so real. Have either of you seen The Wire on HBO?
Some of it.
Kenny, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen The Wire.
Okay, well then, never mind about my comparison.
I was going to say about the rainbow is when I saw it, I was like, that's awesome. And I was like, wow, that looks too good. And I was like, that's probably CGI. I was like, that's good effects work right there.
Real rainbow. That's why I'm saying it could be real smoke.
Yeah.
I was concerned with the kids in the abandoned building.
Oh yeah.
I was like, legit.
Because that was all
the lighter.
That was all real. That was all real.
Yeah. I'm like, that's an abandoned building.
Yeah, and they're like,
those are kids breaking shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
How fun must that have been?
That must have been.
You know what's funny? It's like if this was Steven Spielberg could have made the same movie. Like literally, he could have made the same movie, except he would have constructed those abandoned buildings on a lot somewhere, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
He would have built the 2 hotels. He would have built the abandoned buildings.
Yeah.
The movie probably would have felt more like a movie.
He would have made a fake Disney World that the kids run into at the end.
See, yeah, and I wonder.
And he would have done something with the helicopters.
Funny. Yeah, he would have done something with the helicopters. Yeah, no, he probably wouldn't have done anything. He wouldn't have had the helicopters in it.
Yeah, he would have had the helicopters would be out.
Yeah, that's what I like so much about just this direction. I'm wondering about his other movies, Sean Baker's other movies, because like the story in here feels so again well crafted, but I'm sure it's not super crafted. But I just
organic.
Love. I love the feeling so much. It's hard for me to compare it with almost any other movie, and I can't. The one movie that comes to mind is because its kind of story is similar. At least the environment is Honey Boy, but it's only because the environment. Honey Boy is so much more from a filmmaker's perspective.
While the theme is pretty different. And if to me, it reminds me a lot of Climax.
I can get that too from
the storytelling vibe.
Technique,
yeah, the vibe.
Yeah. Lack of there's no music in this whole movie until the beginning and end.
Is there?
Yeah, there's no music.
Wow.
That's
I love
accurate.
that.
Yeah.
I love that.
The hotel they shot in was an actual hotel.
It looked like an actual hotel.
It was a real hotel.
Some of the people in the shots are actually real residents.
Yeah, it was actually a residential hotel where people were actually living there. And some of the real people are in the movie in the background, and some of the actual staff made it in the movie too.
See, I was wondering how far they went with that kind of stuff. Like, at what point they would say, "Okay, we can't put that in the movie." Like I wonder if the fight was real, and then they staged around it. You know what I mean? Like a fight broke out, the camera looked down and saw it, and then they're like, "Oh, we should continue that in the next shot."
Could be.
Yeah, this movie, what threw me off was how real the movie feels, and also how stylized it is sometimes too.
Yes.
With the colors and the super saturation, and all this kind of interesting stylization going on, but it's still completely real.
Yeah.
And completely believable.
That's interesting. It doesn't
feel detached or anything like that.
I didn't feel like it was stylized in any way.
Yeah, because like I mean like the I don't see that kind of color where I live. Maybe it's more common in Florida because Florida's kind of weird, but like
You just mean the environment?
just the environment and the colors that people are wearing, and then just the hyper-saturated look,
Yeah.
and all that, and the 35 millimeter film shooting on 35 millimeter.
To me, it had a very warm and like borderline on happy color.
Yeah, like
it felt like welcoming.
Yeah,
it felt welcoming.
Yeah.
It feels like
visually,
it
didn't feel abrasive or frightening or
Yeah.
lonely. It felt comfortable.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about with The Wire, is because The Wire kind of does that too. Even though The Wire's a hell of a lot more directed and written and everything, the way they shoot it is not like dangerous feeling. Like if you think of what's his name, Paul Greengrass, the guy who did Bourne movies. Yeah, it's like when you direct an action scene, that's what you think of, right? And when you think of an action scene, you don't necessarily think of action sequences that happen in The Wire. It's because it feels, again, like they're just documenting it. It's just happening in front of you. And I really like that about this movie. And I think that's part of what makes it so natural feeling, is that like when the arguments happen, the camera's not in their face. And even when, what's her name? The mother started like fought that other girl, like punched her face when she was in the hotel. Like it was just a cutaway. It wasn't even a cutaway. It was just a camera that panned over, followed her, and then I think there was something in the foreground. I think a kid.
It was her son.
Yeah. And like we didn't even see all of it, and then she stormed out, and the camera just stood there. I'm like, that's amazing. That feels so. What's his name? Who's the Korean guy that we love? Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, it feels very much like him.
That moment blew my mind because kind of going back into like the whole improv versus like the weird story space this movie occupies, where it is heavily improv based, but it's also like very much like commenting on a subject, and it has something to say, I felt like, and showing, and I felt like that scene was a pretty good maybe one of the more directed scenes, I felt like, because it's so violent, and also how we cut right to the back of the boy's head, and the back of the boy's head is in focus, and we hear and see the violence happening in front of him.
Well, don't we rack from his head to the girl though afterwards?
What was it?
Don't we rack from his head to the girl? Also?
I don't remember exactly, but it's focused on the boy's head.
I remember the girl being in focus quite a lot.
You don't see the violence happening. I felt like there was a shot to show that her son is watching his mom get beat to a pulp.
Yeah.
And that was very disturbing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, quite a lot.
It cemented home like just the kid's point of view, and kids seeing that
absolutely
kind of stuff happening. You know?
Oh man. So I mean, this whole movie had a lot of things like that, but one of my favorites, and the reason why the helicopter I thought would come into play later, was the cutaways to the girl in the bathtub every time.
Mm-hmm.
Where her name's Mooney, right? Or her nickname, I don't know. Anyway, the little girl is in the bathtub, and the hip hop music playing on the radio, and they kept cutting to that scene, and there was like 3 different times that they cut to it, and you're like, something's going on here. This is you're not just doing this for fun. And then it had a plot point, that came in later on, that there was a reason why she was in here. And I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing and very sad.
Yeah.
When the dude says, "There's a kid in here."
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so much of this, dude, I kept watching, 45 minutes in, I'm going, there's so much trash here. This has got to be building up to something, right?
Yeah.
And if it didn't, I would have hated this movie, actually. Yeah. It had it not built up to anything.
Want to hear some weird morality in my head? When I found out that when it was revealed that she was selling herself as a prostitute, and that she had stole the magic bands from the guy who had come in, I was relieved to know that she sold legit magic bands to that other guy. Because I felt really bad because I'm like, oh, dude, that guy's spending his vacation money, and they're going to be fake magic bands. So I'm like, I hate her for that.
That's so funny, dude.
But when I found out that she stole them from a douchebag and that they're real, I feel better.
It's all good now.
Better. That's how
there's some justice in the world.
It's
how
so
my
funny
morality works. Now I feel good for that guy. I'm like, dude, he got a deal.
You know what you, Kenny, what you remind me of is when I would play video games when I was younger, and my mom would see us racing on the screen, and she'd be like, "Wow, look at the mountains; those look really nice." Right? she's relating with a part that's completely not supposed to be relatable in any way.
I relate to everything.
I just love how you related to it. Not even a side character.
I'm the part of my brain I can't turn off is wanting to connect to everything in a movie. Right. And when something doesn't connect, it feels like it doesn't work to me.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of your interest in movies.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
Do you have your token? Very good.
Do we have anything more to say, or
we should end the show? We should end the show by all going like that at the same time. I love it. Yeah.
It's a little cheese pizza.
Oh, cheese pizza.
The little cheese pizza.
Oh, hey guys, that reminds me. What kind of pizza is this movie?
How do we know it's pizza time?
I feel like that's not even.
Guys, how do we know it's pizza time?
Is it pizza time or not?
It's pizza time.
Okay, so this movie, what kind of pizza was this movie?
Who goes first?
Who?
Me.
Is on first.
Me.
All right. What kind of pizza is it, D?
Oh, man. This is this is really tough. This is a really good pizza for one, but I feel like it's the kind of pizza that you look at and it's like it looks really plain, and you're not like the pizza behind Taylor's head almost. It looks plain, and you're like, I mean, I don't know. And then you take a piece and you bite it, and you're like, explosion of flavors, and you're just like, this tastes amazing. How come no one's ever tried this pizza? And it's because the pizza just looks so plain, and no one wants to try it. But you tried it, and it's amazing. So now you can't stop having pizza like that. However, the person who made it will never make another one like it. So that kind of sucks.
We will never see its likes again. That's a good one. I will have to go with these.
This is a bagel bite?
Yes, this is Bagel Bites. And I have a good reason, because again, it's like it's not like a pizza. All right? It's not like a pizza. But then you eat it and you're just like, dang, these are good. These actually are good, even though I will not.
That's actually, there you go.
I will not claim that these are pizza. Like I can't compare it to other movies. It's very, very different from anything I've ever seen, and yet it's so amazing, right? And that's a Bagel Bite, and Bagel Bite. Let's be honest, Bagel Bites is kind of like the poverty of pizza.
I can't imagine anyone having that reaction when they eat a Bagel Bite. They're like, this is amazing.
Have you had a Bagel Bite? They are amazing.
Oh,
I
different
love
tastes.
Bagel Bites as a child.
Bagel Bites.
I like Totino's pizza rolls.
Oh, dude, Totino's pizza.
Well, that's no doubt. But you can't compare those two. They're not the same. They're not the same.
They're the same.
It's true.
When you have pizza on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime.
Exactly.
Florida Project is the Florida Project is a pizza.
Wow.
Got it. Boom. It's a pantry pizza. So it's a pizza. It's all
pantry pizza.
yeah, it's made with like, like raw dough. Like you make the dough yourself, and it's just made with like stuff from your pantry, and then the ingredients that go on top is just kind of what was around at the time. But it all like works perfectly.
Very
So
nice.
it's sort of improvised.
It's a more or less improvised piece of pizza, and it's beautiful. It turns out being beautiful, and you eat it, and it's delicious. And after you eat it, you're like, that was so delicious, I'm gonna cry, and then you cry.
Then you cry. That works. I think that works.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
That good.
What is that?
I'm at a pizza place.
Is that a Sbarro's?
There's a pizza over there.
Sbarro's.
This is that pizza right there.
It's hyper specific.
I've started watching The Office recently, and I love it when Michael Scott goes to New York. He goes, my favorite New York pizza place. It's Sbarro's.
That was always one of my favorite Office jokes. I love that. That was so funny.
Did you know that when Walt Disney was making Disney World, and they tried to keep that project top secret because they didn't want there to be a mad dash for real estate in the Orlando area.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was only referred to as the Florida Project. That was the code name for Disney World. Now you know.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We should end on that note.
On that note, let's end.